Hi guys, in this presentation we're going to be looking at the quadratic equation and solving the quadratic equation by formula. Okay, so what we plan to do is we plan to discuss what a quadratic equation is. We're going to introduce the quadratic formula and we're going to solve an equation using the formula. Okay, so we're not going to be doing any factorizing here. We are literally purely using the quadratic equation. Okay. So what is a quadratic equation? Okay, so this equation that we can see up here, which is x squared plus 4x plus 2 equals 0, is a quadratic equation. Okay, so a quadratic equation, okay, so the x can be, it can be like 4x, 5x, so on and so forth. But the first number, so the first component is squared, okay, plus 4x, okay, this component is x to the power of 1, okay, it's not squared, it's not to the power of 3. And then we've got the last component here, which is just 2, which is on its own. So a quadratic equation is something squared, okay, plus something to the x plus 2 equals 0. Okay, you can't transpose these, okay, or use it or use any other method. You've got to use either the quadratic formula or you factorize to solve them. And the reason behind this is because x, okay, has two values. Okay, so if you can imagine, if you look at this graph here, so you get a parabola here, a parabolic curve, okay, on your graph, okay, and x, okay, has two values. Okay, so that's why we can't transpose the formula. Okay, we need to actually use the equation because x has two values. Okay, this graph is just to show you it doesn't actually relate to this equation up here. Okay, so it's just to show you that x has two values. So moving on, the quadratic formula. Okay, that looks like a meaty formula or equation. What we need to do is we just need to look at a few component parts of it. Okay, so we've got a plus and minus here. Okay, that throws some people, but all that is the fact that you're going to actually do this sum, okay, this equation effectively twice. You're going to do one with it positive, okay, so minus b plus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a, and then you're going to do minus b minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Okay, so you're going to do the sum effectively twice. Okay, we've got no values in there, so we've got a's and b's and c's. Okay, so but how do they relate to our equation that we've started with, our problem? So we have x squared plus 4x plus 2 equals 0. So that's our quadratic equation that we're going to solve. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at what relates to what. Okay, so this component, this part here, so the x squared is the a. Okay, so whatever x squared is times by, so 2, so in this case it's going to be 1, but if it's you know, it could be 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on and so forth. Okay, plus 4x. Okay, so that 4x is now b, is going to be b, so 4 is going to be b, and then this last component here is c, and if on our equation it's 2. Okay, so the first part is a, the second part is b, the third part is c. Okay, and then what we need to do is we need to punch those numbers into, or substitute them back into our formula. Okay, so we can actually solve it mathematically. Okay, and hopefully you should have something like this. Okay, so at the moment b is positive 4x. Okay, so that stays the same, so that then becomes minus 4 here, so it becomes minus 4. If this was a minus 4x, okay, that would be a positive 4. Okay, so that's something to just keep in mind. If this is positive 4, it becomes a minus. If it was negative 4, okay, it becomes a positive 4. Then we've got our plus and minus to say that we're going to do the equation twice. And then we've got the square root, okay, and then it's going to be 4 squared. Okay, here's another thing to just going back to whether b is plus or minus. Okay, so we have, if b was minus, okay, you would not have negative 4 squared. Okay, because in real life you can't square a negative number. You can on your calculators. Okay, your scientific calculators will do it, but in real life, which is what this sort of curve relates to, we can't. Okay, so it would always be positive. Okay, so you would, if that, even if that was -4, you would still square root positive. Okay, so don't put -4 squared. Okay, then it's moving on to the simple bit. It's -4 times a, which is 1. Okay, because it's an imaginary one there that we discount. Okay, and then it's times c, which is 2. Okay, so 4 times 1 times 2, and then that is over 2 times a, and again a is 1, so it's 2 times 1. Okay, and that is our equation put into our formula. Okay, so as simple as that. Okay, just bearing in mind, just keep an eye on what this is. Okay, plus and minus. Okay, a can be, if say for example, if it was -x, it could be -2x, -3x, so on and so forth. Okay, 3x squared, -3x squared, -2x squared. Okay, that would be negative. Okay, so it would be 2 times -1 if it was negative, or -2, or whatever it is. Okay, and that is when you actually substitute in your negatives. So how do we go next? Okay, so we'll go forward. Okay, so we've got our quadratic formula with all of our components plugged into it. The next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to start neatening this up. So we're actually going to start going through and actually solving each part. Okay, so don't forget like your BODMAS rule and stuff like that. Okay, so we're going to do 4 squared. Okay, so that should be 16. And minus, so it's going to be -4 times 1 times 2. So 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2, okay, is 8. Okay, so it's going to be 16 minus 8, and then it's going to be divided by 2 times 1, which is 2. So hopefully you should have something like this. And then we can neaten this up again, so 16 minus 8, and then we're going to square root it. Okay, well, actually we'll neaten this up. So then we end up with 8. And then we do the square of the 8. Okay, so we end up with -4 plus or minus 2.82847125. Now I've left that as if it is on my calculator. Okay, so that's how it came up on my calculator. Okay, but you could depending on what you're told to work to, 3 or 4 decimal places will be fine. It depends on, just read the question. Okay, it should specify what your working should be to, but the more accurate you can keep this, okay, the more accurate your answer will be for x. So now we've got -4 plus or minus 2.82847125. Okay, and then so it's going to be -4, and we're going to do this twice. Okay, so we're going to have to do this twice. So we're going to do one we're going to -4 plus this, and then we're going to do -4 minus this. Okay, so let's have a look at what we're going to get, and then each of those is going to be divided by 2. Okay, so the first one is going to be -4 plus 2.82847125 divided by 2. Okay, and that gives us minus 0.58576, and I think that's been rounded. Okay, so that's one value for x. Okay, so that's going to be that one value for x, and then we're going to do it again. So this time we're going to do the next one as a negative, so it's going to be -4 minus 2.8284725 divided by 2. Okay, and that should give us this value here. Okay, and that is our quadratic equation solved by using the formula. Okay, so we have the 2 values for x. Okay, so you could subscript these if you wanted to put like x1 or x2 or x plus and x negative. Okay, x1, x2, so on and so forth. Okay, so that we know that we've got the 2 values now for x. Okay, we can see that through there, 2 values for x. Okay, so just to quickly recap, if b is a negative, so say for example we had x squared plus 4x plus 2, if it was -4x, this would become positive. Okay, if it's -4x, okay, we cannot square a negative number in real life. Okay, so it becomes positive, so it still remains a positive. Okay, so don't try and square a -4, because otherwise you'll get the wrong answer. Okay, so and then you won't get the marks, which is what we want. Okay, so The objective, so we've discussed what a quadratic equation is. We've introduced the quadratic formula, and we've solved an equation using the formula. Thanks for watching. I hope this helps, and if you have any questions, please see me in class.